Sometimes I feel like some of these studies, of course, like too many choices, it's a first world problem. Hey there, Zesties. You're tuning in to the Gleeful Talk Show, where we share zesty stories to cultivate the happiness and hero within and out. On the show, we talk about personal development and experiences, society and culture. So if these are the topics that you're interested in, then please stay tuned. So Zesties, it's been a while and it was a whirlwind of a few weeks for me, so I wasn't able to put out episodes out there, but thank you so much for waiting, for those who are waiting, and I'm so sorry for the late few episodes, but here I am on my 34th week of pregnancy, going strong, but sometimes it's a little bit hard because of the mood swings and the heaviness of it, but I'm quite thankful that so far it's still so good and I'm able to do most of the normal tasks, and the only thing is that I do have to watch out for my diet. And if you would like to hear more about some prego updates, I might put that out on a separate episode. But for now, our episode for today is a topic that shapes our lives in profound ways: the power of making choices. So every day we're faced with countless decisions. Some are minor, like what to have for breakfast, and some are major, like choosing a career path or deciding to start a family, and in my case, deciding to have a child. But no matter the scale, each choice we make carries the power to shape our future. So today we'll also explore expert insights and studies that highlight the significance of our decisions. And one of the main reasons, Zesties, that I wanted to put out this episode because I really feel strongly about the power of choice. Because I feel that when you have a choice, you are free, if you know what I mean. Like if you don't have a choice, you would feel restricted. And there is luxury in being able to make a choice, right? And for most of us, we have that luxury. Some of us might not have that much of that luxury, which we can talk about later. I can also share some of the experiences that I have. But yes, this topic hits close to home because I'm really big in making choices, because that's what I realize now, being able to migrate to Australia, having lived in a third world country like the Philippines, and being able to achieve at least some of my goals so far, or at least most of my goals. And still counting, right? So, and I would attribute that, aside from, luck, help of others, aside from all of those external circumstances, was because I made a choice. So this episode, I hope, would be able to help you or redirect you, or at least give you a sense of hope about the power of making choices. So first, Zesties, let's talk about the impact of choices. So our choices are essentially the building blocks of our lives. Each decision we make leads to a series of consequences, and those consequences can lead us down a variety of paths. It's a bit like a choose-your-own-adventure book. Every choice we make opens up new possibilities and closes off others. To illustrate this, let's look at the work of Dr. Sheena Iyengar, a professor at Columbia Business School and author of The Art of Choosing. Dr. Iyengar's research shows that while having choices is important, too many options can lead to decision paralysis and decreased satisfaction. In one of her famous studies, she found that customers were more likely to purchase jam when they are presented with 6 options compared to when they had 24 options. So Dr. Iyengar's work emphasizes the importance of not just having choices, but also managing the number of choices to make better decisions. This finding can help us understand how to navigate our lives without feeling overwhelmed. And yes, the key word on that anecdote would be the overwhelming sense of choices as well. So even if you go to a restaurant, right, like some few restaurants here in Australia, like mostly Asian restaurants, they have a lot of choices and you can't even seem to choose a dish, or it takes too much time. And at the end, sometimes like, oh, when you see your friends' food, oh, they have made the choice better just because you were so overwhelmed with the choices. And I think this is what Dr. Iyengar's work is emphasizing, is that we would need to narrow down the choices that we have on our plate as well in order to make better decisions. And that is, again, an art of choosing, right? Because if you have a choice of going to this place and going to that place, and then you wouldn't be able to really narrow down and choose properly, let's say, if you have too much choices and get overwhelmed with it. It's like a decision paralysis, as what I've mentioned earlier, which leads to decreased satisfaction. And now let's dive into the psychology behind decision making. Why do we make the choices we do? Often, our decisions are influenced by a variety of factors, including our emotions, experiences, values, and the information we have at the time. That's also quite important, Zesties, because sometimes, most of the time, me, myself, I tend to kind of like, oh, in hindsight, I should have chosen this thing or that thing. But then realizing that actually at that point in time, I only have that particular information. That's why I was able to arrive at that decision or choice. So it's that constant reminder as well to be kind to ourselves, that when we arrive at a decision, and it might not be the best decision along the way, but at that point in time when you made that decision, you didn't have enough data or you didn't have enough information, and you just need to make a decision just because of the circumstances, right? So Dr. Daniel Kahneman, a Nobel Prize-winning psychologist and author of Thinking Fast and Slow, has extensively studied how we make decisions. He differentiates between two modes of thinking: System 1, which is fast, automatic, and emotional, and System 2, which is slow, deliberate, and logical. Our quick, instinctive choices are often driven by System 1, our emotions mainly. It's like kind of like a gut feel or more of a feeling type of thing, because that's what we feel first, right? Whereas System 2 kicks in when we need to analyze and think things through. Dr. Kahneman's research reveals how our brains use shortcuts, known as heuristics, to make quick decisions. While these shortcuts can be efficient, they can also lead to cognitive biases. For example, the availability heuristic causes us to overestimate the likelihood of events based on how easily examples come to mind. Understanding that these biases can help us make more rational and informed decisions. So basically, with this psychology behind our decision making, is that we have these two systems, and our default basically is System 1, which is our emotions, and System 2, which is the rational side of our brain. And we might tend to have biases just because of how many examples we can find without really thinking things through. And I guess that would apply again to our daily lives, right? So we tend to be biased in some ways or another, and which is kind of like something human, right? But of course, we just need to step back and think things through, as they say, right? And I'm totally guilty of this, especially when I was younger. And I think we all go through that stage where when we're angry, we make some decisions that are not really the best decisions at that time. However, I'm trying my best to be an adult now. Hopefully, I'm successfully doing it. But of course, from time to time, the emotions can really get to you. Well, for example, like because I'm pregnant, right? And I haven't really shared it here, which I will share in a different episode for those who would be interested in my pregnancy journey, that I have the gestational diabetes, and then I'm monitoring my blood sugar 4 times a day. And sometimes it goes over just because, maybe I didn't really measure properly what I ate and stuff like that. And then I get very stressed about it. And because of that, of the mood swings as well in pregnancy and all those things, then I was like, oh, I'll just eat more, because I've been restricting myself and then there's no point, etc., etc. And then it can lead to bad decisions. And that is, why sometimes using system 1 is not the best thing. You have to use your system 2, basically. So yes, Zesties, we move on to the freedom and responsibility of choice. With the power to make choices comes both freedom and responsibility. So, Spider-Man, is that you? On one hand, having the ability to make our own decisions allows us to create the life we want. It empowers us to take control of our destiny and pursue our passions. On the other hand, it also means we're responsible for the consequences of our choices. And this is actually one of the reasons why I wanted to put out this episode, because of this topic on freedom and responsibility of choice. I myself am guilty of sometimes blaming my past, my childhood trauma and whatnot for those things that draws me back to succeed in life. I tend to do that sometimes, but I try to remind myself to not really get caught up on that thinking, because sure, it's way harder to succeed in life if you have those traumas that you have to overcome. It's definitely way harder to excel if you come from humble backgrounds like myself without any resources compared to your well-off, well-equipped counterparts, right? However, I try to remind myself again that if I constantly blame those things, then I am choosing to blame rather than take action and get the best of what I am given. So again, to be perfectly honest, it's really difficult to take this out of my system, because coming from a third world country to a first world country, I found it very unfair how I have to seep my way in on different aspects of the new country, whether it's work or because of differences in culture and, of course, confidence level. Let's face it, though this could be generalizing, but people from humble beginnings like me would have lower confidence level than those who are already in developed countries. But life has never been fair, right? So again, I do try to remind myself this. That's why I also want to put up this episode, and perhaps a good reminder for you Zesties as well, that though sometimes when life takes its toll on us, it's a good way to maybe step back a little, maybe get away from all these noise for a moment, because we are human and we tend to think of these things. But if you take yourself out of that moment, out of that construct, then you are able to contemplate and use your system too and analyze things and how life has never been fair, to get to the right frame of mind and not getting stuck on a limbo thinking like this. Because that's one of the mistakes of others, I feel, that if they just constantly blame their past, their childhood trauma, and everything that happened to them, they are not allowing themselves to make a choice to get out of that situation. So, Professor Barry Schwartz, author of The Paradox of Choice, argues that while having freedom of choice is essential, too many options can lead to anxiety and dissatisfaction, and his research suggests that limiting our options and setting boundaries can help us make better decisions and lead to greater happiness. Again, this is kind of related to what I mentioned earlier on the works of Dr. Iyengar. And sometimes I feel like some of these studies, of course, like too many choices, it's a first world problem. However, from a person who came from a third world country, most of us don't have a lot of choices anyway, and we are mainly faced of a different type of barrier, which I mentioned earlier about, like childhood trauma or having that lesser confidence level, competing with others in the developed country. And again, it's making that choice, Zesties, to really come out of that thinking that I'm like this and I couldn't, compete in an environment like this in the first world country, etc. Because I am a testament to that was what I felt before. But in the end, I chose to really change that frame of mind that I can also do well in this country despite my humble beginnings. And of course, I am disadvantaged at the very first start, right? But life's just that way, and we just make the best of what we are given. And going back to the Professor Schwartz concept of the paradox of choice, this explains why modern society, especially developed countries, that having too many choices can feel burdensome rather than liberating. This insight encourages us to simplify our decision-making process and focus on what truly matters. The only thing is that I hope I can find a study talking about people from the third world country and what is the impact of their choices as well, because most of the research that I was able to find is having a different landscape, like which is the first world country. However, moving on. So you asked me, oh, Glee, how can we make better choices? So I found some few practical tips supported by expert insights. So one, gather information. Make sure you have all the relevant information before making a decision. According to Dr. Iyengar, informed choices are more likely to lead to satisfaction and success. And to illustrate that, Zesties, for myself, before I came to Australia, of course, I was already contemplating on moving out of the Philippines. And of course, there are some countries, like there are several countries, right? The world is your oyster, as they say. But it was easier for me, I would have thought, that to go for English-speaking countries because it would be, I don't have to learn a new language. And I was a bit older at that time. So I was researching together with my husband what countries would be better for both of us because we are both non-English-speaking natives. So in the end, we chose Australia rather than Canada or even Europe, right? He's from Europe. And it actually gave us better satisfaction because of that informed decision that we were looking at cost of living, being able to find a proper job that we like, companies that we like, and etc. So, and even the rental prices and even what city in Australia to that point. So having an informed choice will make you feel more satisfied of the choice that you have made. Another step is consider the long-term consequences. Think about how your decision will impact your future. Dr. Kahneman's work highlights the importance of engaging System 2, thinking for long-term decisions to avoid impulsive short-term choices. Yes, this again, I can attest to that. I tend to really plan too long-term sometimes, but back when I was around maybe 25 or 26, around that age, when I first met my now husband, at that time we were just colleagues and we were talking about our plans for the future as colleagues, just a little chit chat. And I was telling him that I want to migrate to Dubai and ultimately Australia. And that's what happened because I did consider the long-term consequences of my actions. And I know that staying in Dubai for me wasn't really more of a long-term choice, just as a means to an end. Then another one is trust your instincts. So sometimes our gut feelings can guide us in the right direction. Malcolm Gladwell, in his book Blink, discusses how snap judgments can be surprisingly accurate when based on expertise and experience. And this is very true, especially when you make business decisions or professional decisions, right? A person who has 10, 15 years or, 20 plus years of experience would have, let's say, quick decision making because they have that wealth of experience behind them and they're able to connect from that or gather from that in order to make a quick decision. And yes, I do this also in my daily work where I do have 15 years of experience, and that really helped me in my professional life. And that's why I really value experience. I know that, the young people nowadays are also very talented, but they can be impulsive in a way because they don't have the experience to lean on. Then next one is a practical tip is seek advice. Don't be afraid to ask for input from others. Research by Dr. Catherine Phillips from Columbia University shows that diverse perspectives can lead to better decision-making outcomes. But be careful on this because sometimes, too much diversity of perspectives make you also confused. And what I would say is if you seek advice from different people, from different perspectives, but you have to apply your instinct as well. You have to do a combination of these tips to be able to make a better decision. And next is, of course, reflect on past decisions. Take time to reflect on your past choices and their outcomes. This reflection can help you identify patterns and improve future decisions. So yes, Besties, finally, it's important to embrace the journey of making choices. Life is full of twists and turns, and not every decision will lead to the outcome we expect. That's really a hard lesson for me, especially that I am such a planner, but that's okay. Each choice is a learning opportunity, a chance to grow and evolve. Psychologist Dr. Carol Dweck, known for her research on mindset, emphasizes that the value of viewing challenges and setbacks as opportunities for growth. Her concept of a growth mindset encourages us to see decisions as part of our learning process, helping us to become more resilient and adaptive. So yes, Zesties, of course, rumination is one of my traits, which sometimes lead to regret, etc. But I'm trying my best to embrace this growth mindset. And it takes a lot of practice, I have to say. So having that mindset or arriving to that mindset can be hard, especially if I'm not practicing it that much. So that's why I'm trying to do much more readings about this and able to share it to you as well so that you are also reminded, we are reminded together. So yes, that's it for our episode. Thank you so much for tuning into this quick episode, and I hope you found our discussion on the power of making choices insightful and inspiring. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. And if you'd like to support more of the podcast, please do visit the episode notes down below where you can share a cup of beverage or two. And thank you so much for our patrons who have been supporting the podcast. This podcast wouldn't be here for 3 years and counting without you. Thank you so much, and until next time, keep making powerful choices and living your best life. See ya!